Welcome, Earthlings. My name is Planet Mitch, and I'm from a website called PlanetFiD.com. This is episode number 3 of Tech Talk Time with my co-host Michael Artsis from Be Terrific.
What's up, Mitch? How you doing?
Hey, I am much better, and let's not forget to introduce Paul Skorsky before we move on into why I'm better.
How's it going, Mitch? How's it going?
He's our producer. He's supposed to be seen and not heard, right?
No.
Hey, Mitch, real quick before you get into why you're better, you have the Fitbit Flex now.
I do.
And how's that going, number one?
It's going very well. I'm liking it a lot.
Now you're on a ball, like one of those bouncy balls. I want everybody to know that starting out. You've been doing this for 5 years. Clearly it has not helped your core. But no.
Oh my!
We have to be honest on the show, and you're trying to get in better shape now. So we want people to know that there's a difference. But I want them to know that you're on the ball because, first of all, you are on the ball, and second of all, when you start bouncing, I want people to know what's going on. But does it set the activity tracker off at all? Does the Fitbit count extra steps because of that ball?
It does, actually. I get a lot of extra credit for walking when I'm not really walking. I also noticed that we have a strider, glider kind of thing out front that sometimes I go sit with my laptop and work out front, and I get credit for walking while I'm doing that too. So, I mean, I am exercising.
Well, I was going to say, but you are exercising. So,
yeah.
Okay. So why are you feeling better?
Well, we missed out last week. People probably haven't been keeping track, but episode 3 was supposed to happen last week, and it didn't because I was in the hospital with kidney stones.
Now, that's amazing because I always thought kidney stones, you go in, they blast them out, and then you walk out the door. But for you, you had to have surgery.
Well, in my particular situation, and in most people, when you have kidney stones, quick summary, you have a kidney, and there's a pipe called a ureter, which sends the stuff down to your bladder, which collects there, and then when it's full enough, you go to the bathroom. So the kidneys are actually creating the urine, and it goes down this tube called the ureter. The stones are created inside your kidney, and they sit there and grow and grow and grow, and finally your kidney says, time to spit it out, and it starts going down that tiny little pipe. Okay, so while it's growing in your kidney, it doesn't hurt. When it comes down the pipe, it hurts. So what happens is it kind of clogs up the pipe, which causes pain. And
This sounds awful.
It's the most massive pain.
Great tech talk.
Yeah.
By the way, Mitch Nye, the science guy. Thank you, Mitch.
Yeah, man.
I saw several cool tech things while I was in the hospital, but maybe we'll get there and maybe we won't. But so it's while it's in the tube called the ureter that is when it's painful. And if it's stuck, then you're basically screwed, which is where I was last week.
But can't they blast that out? Don't they blast it?
When they do the blasting, and it has a fancy name, and I can never remember what that's called.
Yeah.
That's actually when it's inside the kidney, and they break it into small enough pieces for you to
pass through. Okay, you had it in the tube.
Once it's in the tube, you are in pain, in agony, and they call it the second most painful thing on the planet.
Now, did you have to get a catheter?
Yes.
Oh, Paul. So you're young enough, Paul, like that is the worst thing ever. I have not had this.
I've only heard rumors about
I literally want them to knock me out if I ever have to have one. Literally, I think I'll demand it.
Well, all right. So when I was in the hospital last week having this procedure, I was knocked out. Okay, so I didn't get to feel that joy. But one of the things that they do when they do the surgery is they leave what's called a stent, and that's S-T-E-N-T.
Sure.
It's sort of like they do in the heart, but it's not permanent. So it basically lines the whole ureter while after the surgery, and it's not really surgery. I mean, they don't cut you. They do go in through the private areas.
Urethra.
Yeah. And
oh my God.
So
I could never do that, Mitch. I could never do it. I literally
let
just
me get
kill
to the
me.
story.
Take me out.
So this plastic pipe is inside you, and I had it for a week.
Oh.
And Wednesday, this is Friday, Wednesday, I got to go to the doctor's office where they went in with local anesthetic, and they pulled that out.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I could do that, Mitch. I don't think so. I think I'd have to be knocked out.
And guess what? I get to do it again.
No.
Yes.
Now let me ask you something. How do you get kidney stones? Because I want to prevent this. What do you eat or drink that causes you to get kidney stones? It's out of my diet as of right this minute. If you said Diet Coke will drop from my hand.
Caffeine is actually one of the things they...
Done. It's water for me.
Caffeine is bad. Things like berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, I've been told to eliminate from my diet. The key, though, the number one thing is to drink 60 ounces of water or more a day. The more you process, the less likely things are to collect inside your kidneys and to form stones.
I feel like I'm going to sound like a Kardashian right now, but this is so hard. 60 ounces of water a day?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to do it. I want to do it now because I really don't want a kidney stone. I want to keep them away from sticking anything up that hole. Mitch, I'm glad you're feeling better and you look great and you're doing well. Now, you've got, right before we went on air, I found out for the first time that you have cats, and not just one cat, not just two cats, but cats, like the musical. Five cats.
Yes.
How does that happen?
We had two cats.
Yeah.
And they were twin sisters. And we had little daughters at the time, 7, 8 years ago. We had daughters, and they both wanted their own kitten. So we decided that we would get two kittens for them about 3 years ago. Oh, she just ran away. I was going to hold her up.
Yeah, she's super cute. I like cats, by the way. I just am glad they're in your house, not mine, especially when you have multiples, because that's a lot of litter to take care of.
That is a lot of litter, and guess who gets to do it?
Mitch.
Let's go technical on cat litter.
Now, is there any tech tool that you can use to make cat litter better? Like, I see all these boxes. What about the woman who was on Shark Tank and she had the thing and all that stuff? Is there anything that actually works?
City Kitty on Shark Tank, we have talked about doing that, where you teach your kitty to actually use the potty.
Right.
Wait, what?
Never mind. Paul was sleeping. It's okay. He missed us.
Look up City Kitty, Paul. City Kitty.
City Kitty is an invention that some woman had. She was on Shark Tank. I actually have met her, and it was to teach your cat to use the toilet instead of the litter box, which would actually be great. All right, so you've got you've thought about that, but what do you use now? You just use an old school litter box?
Yeah, we have 5, 6, 7 litter boxes around.
Be honest. How bad does it smell?
It doesn't smell.
Oh, he's not being honest.
No, it doesn't smell. Now, we do have one cat who's decided that she's decided to urinate somewhere else, which is a real problem.
I love animals and I love cats, but like, I don't think I can handle
Michael,
this. And they're all indoor cats, you told me.
Bless my wife. She came up with, she saw it somewhere, but most of the litter boxes that are upstairs, we have some in the basement, but the ones that are upstairs are actually inside other boxes. So they go in through a hole and do their business, and the smell kind of stays in there.
Oh, that's a pretty good idea. Now, cleaning it is a real pain, though, with like the scooping and the, you know what I'm talking about? Like it clumps. I had cats as a kid. And we sometimes we use newspaper instead of litter, which actually seemed a lot better, but some cats don't like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't contain the smell as much, but it's easier to clean, I think, without that clumpy, it's like clay. It's like Play-Doh.
Well, I do like cats better than dogs, so...
Really? I'm a dog guy. Now,
I'm a dog guy.
Paul, I would say...
dogs outside.
Yeah.
You have to walk them.
But they don't go to the bathroom in my place.
You still have to pick it up.
You know what the worst part about 5 cats I would think is, Paul?
What?
The middle of the night, you wake up, you want a cold side of the pillow, you change the side of the pillow, you put your face in the pillow, and then you come up with a face full of fur. I mean, literally, Mitch, how many times has that happened? Be honest.
Our cats sleep on my wife. They have learned not to sleep on me because I
all
will
five.
them.
All 5 sleep on your wife.
Not at the same time. Most of them Most of them sleep on her half of the bed, and
Now let me ask you something. Did they
I
create a
kick
wall between you two?
sometimes.
See, yeah, it's too many animals. It screws the romance up. And as guys, we have no choice because the women decide these things. We don't get to make that choice. We just get to say, sure, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah. So your daughters have 5, but you had 4. Okay, so now you adopted 2 more. And how do you get the 5th?
Well, we had one pass away. One of the twins passed
Oh,
away.
that's sad.
And we started fostering cats
Oh, that's such a bad idea.
for a while.
It just gets worse.
And we ended up having 2 of them that we could not adopt out, so we ended up keeping them.
And you know what's going to happen, Paul, when we check in with him in about 6 months, because we'll forget about these cats, and all of a sudden we'll check in, he'll have 7.
Yeah.
No,
It's out of nowhere.
We're done with that.
This City Kitty is only like $25. I think you should get on this.
I think they should send Mitch one to review.
Well, I think, well, yeah, that'd be great.
Techie, right?
Yeah.
It is techie. It's totally techie. Cha-ching. All right. I wanted to talk about this, by the way. I'm wearing this crazy thing, and
I want to know
resisted
about
it for so long. This is the LG. It's the Bluetooth 730 headset, and it looks crazy. You wear it around your neck.
It's for your phone?
It's for your phone, for listening to music. You do this with the earbuds, then you magnetically put them back, and you wear it around like an idiot, or you have a tech collar. And I was also a little nervous about having Bluetooth kind of right around my neck on both sides.
Wait a minute.
Radiating me, yes.
So the earbuds are magnetically attached to those big bulby things?
Yes, the earbuds are magnetically attached to those. You pull them out, stick them in your ear. The microphone is here. You've got all the controls on here. It's got like a 15-hour battery life. You wear it around your neck. Some people have a problem with that. I don't mind that. I'm used to wearing ties. Now, I was totally against this thing for a while for many reasons, including the fact that I feel like I look like an Uber dork. But 2 things. I lose Bluetooth headsets all the time. And Chris Leaf from Adorama uses this when he rides his bike to work. Well, he uses it all the time. But when one day I was talking to him on the phone, and he's riding his bike to work, and I said, "How are you talking to me on the phone and riding your bike?" He said, "Oh, that thing I wear around my neck." And I said, "But it sounds perfect. It doesn't sound like you're on a headset." And he said, "These things are great." And I said, "Well, then I've got to get a pair." And I've been back and forth, and I finally got them yesterday, and they're phenomenal so far. This is something I want to do as an ongoing discussion, because so far they're really great. I like the fact that it's a Bluetooth headset I might not lose, hopefully won't drop, and has a long battery life. But more importantly, it sounds good, so people don't know I'm on a Bluetooth headset. Paul, I was talking to you in the city yesterday, walking on the street in the city, wind, loud cars, horns, and you said I sounded good.
Oh yeah, sounded great.
So,
I didn't even know you were on the street, actually. I thought you were like indoors.
That's the thing that I am most excited about with this, and hopefully it will continue to be good. I bought this one, the 730, instead of the newer model, which has noise canceling and is a little bit slimmer, because I don't like noise canceling. It gives me a headache. I can somehow, my ears can detect that low pitch hum that noise canceling does, and
really?
Yeah, it makes me nauseous and loopy.
Huh. Well, these are the Bose headphones that do
Yeah.
noise canceling. So.
Yeah, I'd turn the noise canceling off. I like those. I have a couple pairs of Bose and some other stuff, and I have the Bose Bluetooth headset, which I think is the best Bluetooth headset I've ever used. The only 2 issues is you have to pick left ear or right ear. I pick left. That's easy for me. And then the battery life is rated at 4 hours, and it's really more like 3, which means that I have to charge it 2 or 3 times in a day, and I'm terrified of dropping it because it costs so much. This was also very reasonable, $50 at Adorama. Mitch is totally bored by this.
I'm totally distracted. I apologize.
You're buying a kitty city, a city kitty? Is that what you're doing?
Actually, I've totally screwed up half of this already because part of the audio is not recording. But for some reason, the Google Hangout is constantly switching to me when there isn't any sound. Are you guys hearing something strange from my end?
No, we're not.
I mean, it's switching to me when I'm not talking.
Yeah, actually,
maybe that's because you're the more handsome of the 3 of us.
Handsomer.
Handsomer.
Most handsome.
Handsome Mitch, right there.
So those of you who are going to be watching this on YouTube, I guess I'm apologizing early because I don't know what's going on there.
I think you're just going to have to rip this audio from here later. Play it back and rip it.
Well, I will. The problem is the YouTube audio quality's quite frankly bogus.
So why don't you make a point right now? You hit record, and then it'll switch over to the.
I'm recording, and I'm already doing that, but
Right. Okay. Good.
I just don't understand now why it's switching back to me all the time.
Is there a setting that we have that's messed up? I
No.
think Paul screwed it up. That's what I'm gonna. That's
No.
my story, and I'm
What?
sticking to it.
It's not Paul's fault. It's got to be me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who initiated the Google Hangout.
All right. Well, then it's your fault. It's Mitch's fault. Anyway, Paul, these are pretty awesome Bluetooth headphones so far. The one thing is, I will tell you, I haven't showed them to my wife. So we'll see how that goes.
Why is
She
that?
could-
What'd you say, Mitch?
I said, why is it you haven't shown them to your wife? Are you afraid?
Yeah, she's not gonna like the way they look. She's gonna say, "What are those stupid things around your neck?" She's not gonna be happy about it.
It
I
kind of
think
does look like
the-
a collar.
Yeah, it's kind of like a female repellent, actually. You know, they have bug spray for bugs. I mean, you could just put these on and guarantee you'll never get a date. If that's your goal, wear these.
You could just wear like a turtleneck all the time.
Well, unlike most people, I put them in the collar of my shirt, and they seem to work nicely there.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I did that so that I could show you guys. But anyway, Mitch, we've got a lot to really talk to about. We didn't. It's a good thing, I guess, we didn't get fully into the show yet because we just started, right? We're just starting now. We got to talk about Barnes and Noble and Google teaming up, which seems like the most unlikely pair if you go back a few years ago, especially because of Microsoft's investment into Nook. And Barnes and Noble just desperately looking for anything to revive their retail stores and their hard books. So we just did Darryl Strawberry's book signing for An Imperfect Marriage this week and his whole book tour. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, does anybody buy books? I guess, it's good because you got to sell the digital copies. But, I wouldn't buy it as a book, and they handed me a copy, and I was like, yeah, I'll download it.
There are a lot of people who still buy books. It's rather surprising, but I mean, some people just don't like having that electronic tablet all the time.
Yeah, I do, but I don't like paper. Like, I'm weird. I'm a germaphobe. I don't want to touch paper. I don't like the way books smell. So there was nobody who was looking more forward to digital books than me. But I think this is super cool. On the other hand, this is Google and Barnes & Noble finding a way to take on Amazon, and I think that's good for retail because I think that somebody needs to take on Amazon, or we're going to pay nothing for every product, and then eventually one day Amazon's going to flip the switch because there'll be no retail stores for us to go to, and they'll make good margins.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I'm glad to see that there is somebody else getting into the business. Have you ever looked at Amazon has the my brain's gonna just go wacky on me and not remember things, but the service where you can buy your groceries there.
Yes, I've looked into it.
Is it like Fresh Direct or something?
It's like Fresh Direct. So Mitch doesn't probably know that much about Fresh Direct because Fresh Direct is in major cities like New York, Los Angeles. So we have a Fresh Direct, but I don't think it's out in St. Louis. Fresh Direct started that years ago, and it's become very popular, especially in the cities. I've tried to get my wife on the Fresh Direct bandwagon several times. Won't do it.
I know people are very happy with it.
Huh?
Works very well. I know people are very happy with it, especially in the city. It's very nice.
But a lot of women want to touch the fruit, and there's nothing you can do about that. So, I don't know. My wife isn't down with Fresh Direct. I've looked into. I think they call it Amazon Pantry. We've talked about it. We've toyed with the idea. I think Amazon Pantry would be a lot more successful for us also because Fresh Direct is usually much more expensive, where Amazon isn't doing that. We've never done it, but we've talked about it, and that's interesting. But again, they're just literally trying to kill every retail sector, and there's part of me that wants to stand up and say, I bought these at Adorama not because I get a good deal because I do a lot with Adorama, not because I do a lot with Adorama, but because I could support a place that I can still walk into, and that a year from now, 5 years from now, I'd like to still be able to walk into that place. I'm not saying it works for every purchase, but I really am a big believer in that. So that's why this is nice too, is that there is competition.
Walk into Adorama, Michael, but those of us in St. Louis don't have that opportunity.
Right, but don't you want to support retail in St. Louis a little bit too? Yeah, there might not be an Adorama, but you could walk into some kind of retail location there and buy these. And you don't have to buy everything from Adorama. You can buy some things from Adorama.com.
But, yeah, but that's what's nice about the new Google Shop Express is that what they do is they like buy it from local stores instead of Amazon has the big retail store they own that has all the merchandise. Google Express actually goes to like a local store that has the item and buys it from there.
Right, and I actually know a lot of people who have owned bookstores that have closed, and I know a guy named Kenny who did the Darryl Strawberry signing the other day, and he owns a place called Greetings and Things in Northvale, New Jersey, and it's a phenomenal bookstore, and going in there is this amazing feel, and it's like, oh wow, it's old school, why are we giving up places like this? Why are these places going away? And it's kind of sad. He's got some gifts and toys and books, and it's just super awesome and refreshing when you go into those places, but they're less and less, so it's kind of nice that Google's doing that. Not that Google doesn't want to rule the world too, because of course they do. And I'm sure their end game isn't to support every little bookstore or retailer in the world. But, whatever. By the way, my shirt is super electric. It's moirang like crazy, and I apologize for that. I can see that on the playback monitor.
It doesn't look too bad here, actually.
Okay, good. Because on my end, it must be this lousy Apple monitor I have. I'm kidding. I love Apple monitors.
I know you do.
It's moirang like crazy, and I should know better. It's not even that tight a pattern though, and
it's doing it a little bit, but we'll forgive you this time, Michael.
So anyway, that's my feeling. I mean, I hope that you shop at Adorama when you buy your camera stuff. I like them, but if you have a local place that you can get stuff at, you should support them too. That's always good, supporting local, and especially if you need stuff immediately.
A late cash register.
A late cash register.
Well, I support our local camera shop as well. It happens to be 2 blocks down the street. So
what's the name of that place?
Schiller's Camera in St. Louis.
All right. And is it big? Like I really like Glazers in Seattle, and I like that place in Utah that's called Picture Line. Picture Line's really awesome. There are some really great camera stores around the country.
It's not very big, and they don't have a large selection of video stuff yet because most people still are doing photography.
There are?
Yeah. Shocking. I know. But
that's pretty cool. Well, also I think the video stuff becomes more expensive. Sure, it's easy to have a 5D Mark III because you're selling that to a photo guy too.
Right.
But when you have to get a slider and a crane, and you have to get microphones, it becomes expensive, like that Rode you have sitting there.
Yes, it does.
We got to get Paul a Rode that he can put a little dog on. So wait, you're not a dog guy, but there's a dog sitting on your Rode? What's going on with this?
That's Astro. He's been with me for 20 years.
What's up, George? He's been with you for 20 years, you said?
Yeah, I used to have him on my desk when I worked at Boeing.
Boeing, all right.
There you go.
There's another.
Yeah.
I met somebody from Boeing at the Geek House. I was at the Geek House grand opening, and it was amazing. That place is unbelievable. And, one of the producers there used to work at Boeing 20 years. So
it's a great place. I love them to death because they empowered me to launch Planet 5D and make it my full-time day job.
It's awesome.
And they're still paying me periodically because I've got early retirement.
Nice. Cha-ching.
Yes.
There you go.
What do you think about they're talking about running these planes off off tobacco, not the wacky tobacco, but real tobacco. I don't know if you saw this, but they're talking about being able to fuel planes off tobacco, nicotine-less tobacco, using the oil from the tobacco to fuel planes. And I was reading this, and I was like, oh my gosh. I thought the tobacco companies would be out of business in 20 years. They're going to make more money than ever.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. And why if they had just thought about that 20 years ago, everybody would have stopped smoking at this point because they wouldn't even care about people smoking. They would totally be into flying planes and driving cars off tobacco. All right, so that's, I don't know. That's, Mitch, you didn't even hear that. You didn't,
Yeah, I must be behind the tech news somehow.
No, you're not behind the tech news, not at all. What's the big story on Planet 5D this week, by the way? I just haven't had a chance to go. I've been so busy running around with Daryl and Tracy Strawberry shooting a music video, doing all sorts of other stuff.
Brag.
Hey, Paul got to hang out with them more than me.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I bet.
He goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm walking out of the house and I told my dad that I was going to go do this with Daryl Strawberry." He's like, "My dad went nuts." He's like, "Who is this guy?"
Oh, that's
Yes, I am young. Yes.
What did you think, though, of him? What did you think of him?
No, he's a really cool guy. He's a really nice guy.
And his wife is pretty cool, too, right?
Yeah, they're both very nice.
All right, excellent. So, Mitch, what's been going on? What's like the big news on Planet 5D this week?
Well, we've got a couple of stories on Planet 5D about current cameras like the Sony A7S, and a really popular story this week was about Magic Lantern, which is the firmware hack, as they don't like.
I feel like that came out on Sunday because I feel like I read that.
Well, maybe it did. Isn't Sunday part of this week?
It is. I'm just saying.
It's been a really good week. The other big story was 10 reasons not to buy the GH4, which got a lot of interest.
I've got 10 for you right now.
I mean, the cameras have gotten a lot of a notoriety, especially like the GH4 and the A7S, because they're shooting 4K. We're currently working on an ebook, which we're going to be giving out free to people on Planet 5D who subscribe to our newsletter, talking about opinions from a bunch of different industry experts on whether or not you should be shooting 4K.
I forgot to write back, I think, but I would love to
I'm
participate.
expecting something from you.
No, I'm serious. I want to participate in that, and I'm honored that you asked me, and I want to be part of it, and I think that there's a lot I have to offer on it. And by the way,
With an opinion?
I'm starting to come around on the A7S. I'm going to really get my hands into it next week, but I really like the size and the shape and the weight. And I think it's got some real drawbacks, but I think it's also got some real positives. And if they come up with that firmware that helps us out with the rolling shutter, which I don't think they're ever going to come out with, I think that's a line to get people to calm down and buy it. But if they do, it'll be a great camera. I wish it shot 4K on board, and I wish it had a better codec in my mind. But I do like a lot of things about it, and I'm curious to see how it really shoots when I dig my hands into it next week. But I certainly love the way it looks.
I'm interested to see how you like it too. But so here's a I'm crouching because it's hard to do this. The A7S side by side with the Canon 5D Mark III.
Yeah.
Did I A7? Yeah, I said.
You did.
Frankly, I have large hands. And this little body just doesn't do it for me. That's
You know what they say about large hands, right?
Let's not go there, Michael.
It's big gloves. That's all I was going to say. Big gloves.
Yeah. Okay. Good one.
I mean, a lot of people I think would say that, but you know what I like about it is it's got 3 dials, so you really don't have to touch the buttons much. You got ISO, aperture, and shutter speed all on dials, and you're good. I like that it's small for travel. But I can understand what you're saying. I don't love that screen. It doesn't articulate the way I'd like it to articulate. But the 5D screen doesn't move at all. So,
Right.
And it has focus peaking or focus assist, depending on how you'd like to call it. It's got a lot of other great features like that. It's got unlimited record time. Your card is your only limit. It's got a 2-hour battery life off these little tiny batteries. I mean, it's got a lot of positives. I hear what you're saying. I don't have that problem because I guess my hands aren't quite as big as yours.
Well.
We can't all be that lucky.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I haven't dug that much into it, but I'm starting to like it more and more. There's certainly a lot of buzz around it, and a lot of people seem to really, really love it. I think, the cool thing is that you can shoot some really stunning stuff with it, especially in a high ISO. I mean, I've seen footage at 40,000, 50,000 ISO, and I can't see any grain on a 50-inch monitor.
Right.
Either way, I am really excited about this. I shot 4K raw video on an iPhone 5S at the Geek House, and that will be up soon. A little piece we did.
How did you manage to do that?
So there's an app called VisiWig, and this is a beta version of the VisiWig, the newest version of the VisiWig app. And the Moondog. Did you ever see the Moondog lens? That was a Kickstarter project.
Yes.
So the Moondog lens apparently is an anamorphic lens for the iPhone, but it allows you to see the whole sensor, which is a 4K sensor. And then VisiWig figured out that if you take a JPEG, which is basically shooting raw video, if you take that's like motion JPEG, like they use on the 1DC. If you take a JPEG for every frame instead of a frame of video, this is how RAW is done. It's actually photographs. You can shoot a 4K RAW video. The problem is that you're using 2 gigs for every minute, 1.79 gigs for every minute. But we did about a minute shoot. It looks super awesome, and the great thing is the dynamic range and the detail. So that should be up on YouTube in 4K soon, and then a 1920 by 1080 version. It's really amazing. You can see the fabric in my shirt. I'm not, we've talked about this. Do we need 4K right now? No, but it can be a good tool, especially if you can shoot RAW on the iPhone. And I just love that we can push the iPhone to those capabilities and that kind of stuff. That's the exciting part in my mind, more than, hey, I'm going to go out and do this every day. Not going to happen. But I do think that what the cool thing is to be able to show off this technology and be able to push the iPhone further and further, much like Magic Lantern does with the 5D Mark III. What would be awesome is if Magic Lantern built an app for the iPhone, would be unreal. But I think that their raw footage of Magic Lantern on the 5D looks amazing.
Hold on. Can you hear Mitch?
No, Mitch, I can't hear you. I was wondering if it was me. I was trying to play it cool. I can't hear Mitch. I think we lost Mitch. Mitch might have. Did he hit mute? Did the cat hit mute? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Mitch, we've lost Mitch. Houston, we have a problem. Oh, there's something else I want to talk about too that I just randomly thought of. That then we can get back on track. But there's something I want to talk about conspiracy theories and Kennedy. If Mitch wants to hear about
back
that.
on that.
Yeah.
Wait, is it like the wait, is something coming up about that? Like an anniversary or something?
I think it was 60 years. Oh wait, no, yeah. November will be 60. No, November will be 61. It was 60 years in 2013. November 22nd, 2013 would be 60 years. Isn't that amazing? 60 years since Kennedy was assassinated.
Hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello. Now you sound like my mother. Hello. Yes, Mom?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mom. Yeah, we might come visit you one day this week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What happened there? Did the cat step on a mute button or pull a cable? What?
I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with this Google Hangout, because when you guys are talking, the little green bar is just flashing up and down like I'm speaking. So I unplugged my microphone and plugged it back in, and then I got lost.
I have a feeling that this might be a Google issue. I think that they have a lot of issues. By the way, this is my Instacube, and if you want to send pictures to our set on air, you can just do BeTerrificTVStage as your hashtag in Instagram. So take a photo, put the hashtag BeTerrificTVStage in the photo, and it'll show up right here, which will be cool. We're going to keep that going through all the shows and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, so Mitch, you were responding to what I was saying. What were you saying, since nobody got to hear you? I'm
sorry. What I was talking about was that I really wish that Canon or Nikon, one of the big manufacturers, although I know Sony has done something similar, would be to throw away the software, the firmware that they use to operate the camera, and build it like an iPhone, so that people like Magic Lantern could write applications and add functionality to your phone.
I mean, it's kind of coming. Samsung has done that with Android. Nikon had an Android phone, but they're Android camera, but they're garbage cameras. They're throwaways, right. And they're old platforms. They're using like the older versions of Android. Also, I'm a big iOS guy, and I think it would be awesome if it was iOS that they were doing it with. I don't know that Apple would let them do that or license out the software, but they certainly could be doing things, building boxes to surround the phone and lenses and all sorts of stuff. I think eventually it'll get there. I think it has to get there because the camera companies can't do anything else. And I think it's amazing that they think now some of them are talking about building smartphones or whatever. They have never figured out that that's not what they do. They build cameras good. Team up with these companies. Don't try and go against them. It doesn't make any sense to me. How about a shell that hooks up to this lens? I mean, there are people doing it like Turtleback and other companies. Moondog is building lenses. How come Nikon or Canon can't build something?
Sony make a lens
that's a terrible piece of equipment. It's a Wi-Fi device that just sits. It's a camera in itself. It's a camera in itself that sits on the outside of your phone and Wi-Fi's your phone photos. And you can control it from your phone. It's ridiculous.
But it's a start.
It is a start. You are correct. It is a start. By the way, Mitch, I was in Dallas for the Geek House.
Yeah.
And I saw the grassy knoll. I saw where Kennedy was assassinated. And I gotta say, have you ever seen it?
No, I've not taken time.
What is your imagination? Is it a far distance from the window to where he was hit? Is it a short distance? Is the grassy knoll huge or small? What is your feeling?
I think it's all relatively small.
Okay. And the distance from the window to where he was hit is very large or small? Like a long-range shot, very difficult?
I always thought it was kind of a medium shot, but I don't know.
Okay. So I think that what this showed me is that you can't listen to conspiracy theorists until the conspiracy theorists have been there and done that, until you've examined it as well. I think that so many people are looking for answers and searching for truths. I don't know if Oswald did it or if he acted alone. I know that I now know that whoever did it shot from that window. It's about 100 feet, not 100 yards, to shot number one, and about another 100 feet to shot number two. Literally, I could have thrown a baseball from that window. Really? It was the perfect vantage point. 300 more yards, he's on the highway, on the way to Dallas Airport, under an overpass and untouched. And the theory is that the Secret Service would be the most lax then. He literally picked the best point he could have picked to take this out, or whoever it is. I think you either have one of two things. Either the FBI, CIA, and all the investigators got there and went, oh, that building is where I would do it, so let's tell everybody it was from that building. Or, most likely, it actually happened from that building, whether it was Oswald or somebody else. And if it was Oswald, I don't know if he was acting alone or somebody hired him or whatever. Certainly, I was there with a former Marine, and certainly that Marine and I both felt that it wouldn't be that hard a shot, and that for somebody who's trained, especially expertly trained, it would be an easy shot. Now, the fact that there's no second gunman, there's no way, seeing how small that whole space was, that a second gunman could have been on that grassy knoll with these people standing shoulder to shoulder and not be seen or felt or heard. You couldn't have fired a second shot from there. The other thing is, the fatal shot that everybody thinks is, and I re-examined the Zapruder film, the fatal shot that everybody thinks is from this angle is where the splatter is and pushes his head back, actually couldn't have come from the grassy knoll because that's an exit wound, not an entry wound. Entry wounds go in clean unless the bullets hit something. So his head splatters this way. That's an exit wound, not an entry wound. And I think that back then they just didn't tell the American people how gory things were and stuff or whatever. I don't know why there are all these conspiracies. I think it's a pretty open and shut case. I'm not saying that Oswald did it, but it definitely was from the book depository. And I also think that eyewitnesses very often give false accounts because they don't know, and they probably heard a third gunshot because they heard an echo. Or you have to remember, everybody scatters after the first one. A camera could have fallen to the ground, a tripod, any other noise that could have been a third gunshot. What cat is that? Who is that?
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I'm just giving. I wanted people to hear what I had to say after visiting the location because I've always been intrigued, always kind of given credence to these conspiracy theories, and having been there, I'm like, no, this is pretty simple, And I felt foolish for giving them credence without having seen the spot.
And I can appreciate that. This is a cat named Sully. He's black.
Sully.
He's on my lap now, so he won't show off again.
And he's a long-hair cat as opposed to the one we saw before. Now, I like the short hair better because less shedding. And this long-hair cat is Sully, like the pilot who landed in the Hudson.
Or like Monsters, Inc.
Monsters, Inc. is what he was named after.
All right. Sully.
Sully. Not the pilot, although that would be good.
And not Scully from X-Files.
No.
So this one is cute. How old is this one? This is one of the newer ones?
This is one of the newer ones, yes. I'm fascinated. I'd like to talk more about the JFK assassination issue.
I've always been fascinated.
The guy that redid the Zapruder film by making it stable.
Yeah.
And built all of the extra space around it based on the earlier frames and stuff. It's much bigger because he's taken, the camera is bouncing around, so he grabbed filler stuff from all of those frames and filled in the larger.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see in a stabilized form.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you saw. I think it was on Discovery Channel or History Channel where they hired an expert marksman and they filled those gel bodies and put them where Conley would be and where Kennedy would be, and the guy got on a tower and he made the shots. I mean, like 10 out of 10 times he made the two shots.
Yeah.
He did each one like 10 times with the rifle. And it's funny, everybody will say, "Oh, that's a cheap rifle and it locked up and it jammed and all this stuff." And look, he didn't have to have it work every day for his whole life. It needed to fire 2 shots.
Had to do, yeah.
He had to do it one day, 2 shots. And now, I'm not saying a lot of luck didn't play into it, because I would tell you that a lot of luck did play into it. But what I wanted to go there and see was, is it plausible if everything worked in whoever the shooter was in their favor? Let's say it was Oswald. If everything worked in Oswald's favor, was this plausible? Is this plausible? And my answer is yes, it's plausible. If everything worked in his favor, and if some things went wrong, it's still plausible. So, you have to remember they weren't even really a moving target. They were going so slow.
It's always been fascinating, especially to those of us who lived through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you alive then, Michael?
What'd you say?
I said, were you alive?
I was not alive, but I've always been intrigued by it. When I was a kid, my former stepmother had an aunt who had all these conspiracy theories about it, and I've always been a curious person and wanted to know why and what the deal was. I watched the movie JFK. It's a location. I covered the Super Bowl in Dallas a couple years ago. I really wanted to go there, and nobody else wanted to go. I made it a point that I was going to go this time, and again, I think you should see the space at some point. To me, on video, on TV, it seems so expansive and so big, and the people seem so spread out, and it seemed like there could have been a second gunman behind, like way far in the distance, and it seemed like there was no way you could make these shots to me from that window, and especially in the movie JFK with Oliver Stone. I just think that Oliver Stone wanted to make a sensational movie, and he did, and galvanize people. And there are a lot of great conspiracy theories. And look, this government does a lot of things. I never said that the government wasn't behind it, right? They could have hired Oswald. I'm just saying that whoever was in that window fired those shots, and that it was only 2 shots. And like I said, I'm not saying that it could have been Oswald. He could have been just crazy, acting alone, off the rails like John Hinckley, or it could be a conspiracy. I wouldn't put it past our government or any other government or any other organization. There certainly have been conspiracies, but to think that 60 years later somebody hasn't sold out for book rights, for money, in debt, things have gone bad in their life, and hasn't sold out to tell that story, there would have to be too many people that would have to know. And so it actually changed my perspective too a little bit on that moon landing conspiracy theory, because it's like, what? But somebody debunks that on YouTube now, which is amazing. It's an amazing debunk.
They did it on MythBusters.
But no, there's a better debunking on YouTube, because the guy basically shows that in 1969 we had the technology to land on the moon, but what we didn't have was the technology to fake a moon landing because of the speed you would have had to shot the film at. Have you seen this, Mitch? It's so unbelievable. I got to find it on YouTube and send it to you. It's unbelievable. There is a guy, a filmmaker, who literally breaks down why we couldn't have faked a moon landing, but we could have landed on the moon in 1969. I always thought that there was so much credence to that theory because we wanted it so bad, and because I thought we didn't have the technology to send video back from the moon live like we did. Right. But the reality is, it's really just satellites. Once you're up there, you're connecting to satellites and all this stuff. So I think conspiracy theories are fascinating. I think we have to listen to them because our government does do things, and we have to make sure we're our own watchdogs. But I'll tell you, these are 2 conspiracy theories I now say no. And again, I'm not saying that somebody didn't hire Oswald, that there weren't other people behind it,
Okay.
but we'll never. That's what we'll never know.
You
just
beat
started
that
a-
one to death.
We start a conspiracy theory debunking show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the 9/11? How the government?
I don't want to talk about that because that actually angers me. I don't believe that for a second. There's not even a part of me and there's not even a part of me that, now I'm the old man I would make fun of about the Kennedy assassination who wouldn't even entertain that or the moon landing. I would have made fun of them before for not listening. I do not. I think it's disingenuous and dishonorable to even explore that, really. And I know that sounds so closed off, and we should be our own watchdogs, which I said 2 minutes ago. I don't think there's any way that even George Bush and Cheney could get together, fly planes into buildings so they could make more money with oil. And you know what? I think two things about that theory. One is, and I said I didn't want to talk about it. Listen to this. Well, I think two things. One is, again, somebody would have sold out, especially for that theory. And number two and three, I'll make it the third thing. Osama took full credit for that, and not just because he could, and look like a bad guy, but who's paying this guy to take credit for that? Nobody would take credit for that. And number three, unless they did it. And number three, and more importantly, is that the biggest thing that hinges on is the way the buildings fall, and that there had to be charges in the building. And I would say this. You can sit in a room and give me all the theory you want. And it's like a lot of film students learn theory, and they sit in a college, and that's all they get for their entire 4 years, and then they have no idea how to actually shoot a film. Or broadcasters, journalists get the same. But the journalist who goes out and is taught hands-on experience is a much better journalist coming out of the box. And so here's the reason why that theory doesn't hold up is because you can sit here and tell me all day long, and every engineer in the world can tell me buildings don't collapse like that and it should have toppled and whatever. Name another building that an airliner has flown into, had jet fuel spill all over, and flames like at that temperature where a building has literally disintegrated like that, where, it's toppled over, it's done what it's supposed to do. You can tell me the theory all you want, but until a plane actually goes into a building and affects it, you can't tell me how it's actually going to be affected and how it's going to fall and all that stuff. I think we can sit here and we can speculate, but we don't actually know. Just like we can speculate about the next, 5D Mark IV or the next iPhone. Some things we can speculate right about. Some things we'll speculate wrong about, and usually it's a lot more wrong than it is right. So Mitch, you reminded me last week. When you assume you make an ass out of you and me, and that's the bottom line. That's what I did last week. So assuming a building is going to fall a certain way because of everything you've been taught and because of physics and theory, there are so many environmental things that go into play that you have no idea about and no control over when that happens, that you can't say that's the reason. You can't hinge your argument on that.
Silence. Michael, I love you, and I agree with you 100%. I'm just amazed at how we've gotten so distracted or sidetracked today that we're not really talking tech, are we?
No, we're not. But I think it's good. It's good conversation. Although part of that is tech. It's tech about the gun and with the Oswald thing and the distance and the range and all that stuff. And it's tech talking about the moon landing certainly. And it is tech talking about the engineering that goes into a building and the jet fuel and all that stuff that goes into that a little bit. But it's also human, and I'm okay with that. If you're okay with it. I do want to talk a lot about, speaking of things flying into buildings and stuff, I want to talk about drones and all that stuff.
You found a new drone that you like.
I'm sorry?
I said you found a new drone that you like.
Well, I think I like it so far. I was kind of not a fan of the DJI Phantom 1. I had one. I lost it. We have several others. I think there are good things about it. There's a conspiracy theory behind that.
Yeah, right.
I think there were good things about it, but there were a lot of bad things. Like it wasn't flyable out of the box, and it took a lot of heavy lifting and workarounds and all this stuff. My biggest things were I had no idea how high it was, how far it was. I had no visual on it, and it was easy to lose, and it was also easy to hurt people accidentally. Yeah. Well, The DJI Phantom 2 Plus with Vision is amazing. It ready to fly out of the box. You have an app so that you can watch it on your iPhone. It tells you distance, speed, altitude. You can adjust the camera and you can see a visual. It gives you battery strength. It gives you connection strength. And there are all sorts of extenders. It's really a much more polished product. The camera is terrible. It's not as good as flying a GoPro. It's not as good as a camera you'd want. It's like a GoPro 1 is where it's at. But this has a lot more capabilities, is a lot easier to fly, and I think is a lot safer, which is really what I wanted. I actually want the FAA to set up an organization where we have to watch a video online and register, kind of then take a test to be licensed, and then register our drone. And I'm not for more government, but I'm for more safety. Otherwise, everybody's going to be flying these all over the place and crashing them into each other.
Do you know the original DJIs were having trouble where they would just zip off and crash?
Yeah.
Fix that problem?
It seems like they have. Theory.
No, I mean, I had that problem actually. So right before I lost mine, I crashed mine into a house really hard, and it was because I lost control. And I was flying with Adam, and Adam he lost control of his over the Hudson River that night, but it came back.
Wow.
And so they seem to have fixed that. I've gone out with the DJI guys in the past, and they had, with the DJI 1, the Phantom 1, they had nothing but trouble. But they were able to cope with it a little better, and when they lost one, they were able to just pull another one out of the bag, you know? It didn't necessarily work for me. But I seem to really like the Phantom 2 Vision Plus. It's that setup that I think makes it better, at least at this point.
You want me to pull it out? I have it right next to me.
Yeah, you can pull it out and show everybody, Paul.
$1,400 retail.
Yeah, it's $1,500, I think. Yeah.
$1,369 is what it says.
Where?
On the Phantom website, DJI website.
Really? Okay, so it's.
Yeah, I got it right here. Here it is.
You see Paul's got it. Show him the camera, because otherwise it looks like a regular.
Oh, yeah, the camera's...
You know, the propellers are a little bit better, easier to put on, easier to figure out where they go. That's the little junky camera. You know, it's like a GoPro 1, where it's like we're going backwards. It's 1080, but the quality is not as good, and it's really, my problem is it's a lot of grainy video.
I can't switch out the camera?
No, you
no,
can.
No, it's right. It's like, it comes with the...
You can buy a Phantom 2 Plus, which would give, and the Zemu gimbal, and put an then you'd have to put a GoPro on it, but you'd lose all these other features with the app of being able to see and all that stuff. So you know, I think it's worth getting this as opposed to any other one, but you have to live with crappier video, so you have to be okay with that. And my biggest problem with it is it's not that it's not sharp. It's that it's grainy. It looks like the ISO is up too high. Now, we put the ISO all the way down. You can either leave it on auto or you can put it on manual. We're talking in a bright, sunny day, beautiful day out, and we're getting grain with the ISO at 100. So a lot of grain.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah. So I think they need to make the camera better, but everything else is there. And honestly, it's $1,369. If they wanted to charge $1,500 or $1,600 even to make a better camera, I think it would be worth it, because I'd be that much happier, you know, and then I'd say not only is this a hobby thing and a fun toy, but it's a tool. Right now, it's just a toy.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to have one.
Oh, it's the most fun in the world. It's so much fun, Mitch.
Is it?
I was heartbroken when I lost mine. Heartbroken. It was 2 days before my son was born, and I was heartbroken. My wife was like, "You're depressed." I was literally depressed. And the greatest moment of my life was about to happen, and I was depressed. Like, this thing, I loved the DJI Phantom 1 because it was so much fun. And I put up with all these challenges to fly it, and all these things, and all these obstacles, and all that. You know, and it's interesting, like, you know, we're not really supposed to be flying them. You know, where, you know, the FAA hasn't decided what we're supposed to be doing with them yet. And so we're really not supposed to be flying them. But...
Have you used the video from your DJI 1?
You know what? We've never used it. We have. We used it in the behind the scenes on the mountain at Utah in the Black Rapid video. But other than that, we've never seriously used it. We've always talked about it. Adam's used some. You know, Adam's used some, and you know, we know some other people who have. I never have, but it's GoPro footage, so you could use it.
Right.
This one, I don't know. You'd be really hard pressed to use it. You'd have to treat it. Adam has one of these magic bullet looks that pulls out, and it does a good job pulling out grain. So we're going to play with that and see if we can get some of the grain out. And if we can, then it's usable.
Yeah.
But I think it could be a great tool. It's got the potential. It's almost there. I think the next generation will be perfect. And people are using these for all sorts of bad things. Like I said to you, Mitch, and that's why everybody should be licensed and trained for safety, because safety is one of the #1 things. At Arema, we're talking about putting together a workshop on how to fly them safely and stuff, which I sometimes do, and sometimes I take too many chances myself. But I can teach people how not to take those chances. A drone crashed while smuggling weed into a maximum security prison. I mean, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny, but this is part of the problem. We need to be safe with them, and we need to not be doing stupid things with them, like flying weed into a maximum security prison.
Well, you're trying to convince criminals to not be stupid?
And not be criminals.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's tough.
I know one thing, Mitch. You can't rational with irrational.
That's true.
Or you can't rationalize with irrational. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think we have to find a way. If you have to be licensed to fly them, that's not going to stop people from flying them without licenses. But maybe we could have, I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know that was a DJI, but it'd be nice to not have people try and do things that are stupid with them. I mean, I think you can do I don't even want to mention it. It's like a no-hitter in baseball. You don't want to mention it as it's happening. I can see a ton of bad stuff happening with these things, and I don't even want to say what I see could happen.
I mean, they're already flying into prisons. Like, they didn't get caught. They found it after it crashed. So it was like...
Right. Well, and then the next thing is, I don't even want to say. You could cause you could actually do more damage in the pandemonium you start with this thing in a crowd. Than with you're not going to injure people that bad with this. And if you do, it's one person. You could literally hurt thousands of people by the pandemonium you start with this thing.
Very true. Well, Michael, it's been an hour. We need to wrap this baby up and save all these incredible stories that we wanted to talk about today for our show next week.
I guess we do, man. I guess we do.
Because otherwise, we could just make this into episode 3 or 4 and 5 and 6, all in one show.
We could do that too. If you want, I'm down.
Well, let's just wrap this one up and keep it into short bites, all right?
All right. You know, Mitch, we could all just roll every day, all day. And if the people want that, they should let us know, and we could start doing that.
That is a very good point, Michael. We do want to encourage people to let us know in the comments on the YouTube. We haven't yet published any of these to iTunes, but they will be published on iTunes. So maybe some of you will be listening to older episodes on iTunes. If you want to let us know what you want us to talk about, or if
less Kennedy talk, less conspiracy theory. I promise that. But you know what? Sometimes it's fun to go off the rails on a rant or a tangent.
I love going off the rails because that's where the juicy bits are, Michael.
Yeah.
You know that, and I know that, and Paul knows that.
Yes.
Paul doesn't even know who Kennedy is, by the way. He's going to ask his father tonight, just like he asked who Strawberry was.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, Kennedy, wasn't that a girl who read the news on MTV News?
Good
I don't even know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
I knew as I was saying that. Maybe he knows who Jamie Kennedy is.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jamie Kennedy is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, I don't. Who's that?
He's the comedian who was like maybe gonna marry Drew Barrymore for a minute after Tom Green, and like, you know, he's in all those, like, I don't know, I don't want to say jackass movies, but he's in some of those movies like Road Trip or something like that.
Well, boys and girls, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm just going to cut you off right there, Michael.
I'm good with it.
Let us know what you think. Send an email to me at planetmitch@planet5d.com or Michael over at beterrific.com, right?
It is, beterrific.com. You can reach me at artsis@beterrific.com, or it's on Twitter, beterrifictv.
And Paul, where can people reach you?
Paul.koji@gmail.
Awesome.
There you want.
Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a great episode. I'm looking forward to episode number 4 next week, and tune in for Be Terrific TV.